Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Hannah if you are new here, and in today's video I'm going to be doing all of the books I read in August. As always in my videos, I always organized my videos by genre/category, and the first category is always rereads. I'm a heavy rereader. I reread all the time, both for pleasure, just to enjoy my favorite stories, but also to help me fall asleep. So these were the two books that I listened to while I was falling asleep this month, and that was Wild Magic and Wolf Speaker by Tamara Pierce. These are childhood favorites of mine. I reread Tamara Pierce every year, and I find a lot of comfort returning to Tortall, which is her world, and I'm making my way slowly through her Tortall books. So this is book 1 and 2 in the Immortals Quartet, and I don't love these books as much as the first quartet in this world. However, I still really enjoy these, and these help me relax and fall asleep at night. The next category we're going to go through pretty quickly is the horror category, and I read volumes 10 through 18 of Attack on Titan. Attack on Titan is by Hajime Isayama, and I have been binging this series essentially. Every time I get a couple from the library, I'll just sit down and read them in one sitting, and it's been a really enjoyable experience thus far. Attack on Titan is about humanity. The remnants of humanity are living behind these giant walls, and to protect them from giant man-eating humanoids on the other side of the walls. And on the first volume, a giant titan kicks a hole in the wall, and all of the titans come in. They are trying to survive the apocalypse, and I would classify this as a horror manga, and I would also classify it as adult. It's pretty dark, it's pretty violent and gruesome, and I'm having an overall great time with the series. These particular volumes, there was kind of a dip in the middle. As this series has gone on, there have been ebbs and flows of different subplots and sub-arcs, and I don't enjoy some of the filler episodes, the filler volumes as much, but overall I've given every volume in this run between 10 and 18 3 and 4 stars. Still having a great time, and I will be continuing with the series. Now we get to talk romance. And I put this book in this category because I didn't want to single it out, but it doesn't really fit in the romance genre in my opinion, and that is Priest by Sierra Simone. I knew what this book was going into it. This is my first venture into, I would say, straight erotica literature. I've been on the romance train for a while now, really enjoying my rom-coms, and I was like, well, I'm gonna try and branch out and try different types of romance, and I find that I enjoy more plot in my romances, my rom-coms. This is about a priest and a stripper, and the subtitle is, Priest, a romance, and it was light on the romance and heavy on the smut, as you would expect in an erotica. So while I think this book did a really good job for an erotica book, I just don't think it's my cup of tea, and I don't know if I'll be reading any more straight erotica books. So I ended up giving this a 3.5 stars. Another 3.5 read for me is The Romance Recipe by Ribby Barrett. I am on a desperate hunt to find a cooking or baking inspired rom-com that I love. Accidentally Engaged was pretty close. I gave that one a 4 stars, but everything else has been pretty meh. The Romance Recipe is about these two women. One is a restaurant owner and one is the head chef at the restaurant, and from the beginning of the book, these two are pining for each other. They are queer women, and the major conflict is the restaurant isn't doing very well, so they're trying to get on this TV show to bring in more people to the restaurant, and then it's also about them falling in love. And again, this one was just okay. A lot of cooking romances or like baking romances have a lot to do with TV shows. Pretty much every single one has like, oh, we're trying to be on YouTube or trying to do a TV show. And I don't know, maybe it's that element that doesn't work for me, but with these two characters in particular, the restaurant owner, I found incredibly hard to relate to personally, and I just had a hard time with her in particular. She was telling her the head chef how to feel a lot of the time, and that's one of my big pet peeves in romances, and that's a really big no-no for me. So that was probably one reason I didn't love this couple, but overall I still enjoyed it in general and had a pretty good time with it, so I gave it 3.5 out of 5 stars. Then one I really loved was A Caribbean Heiress in Paris by Adriana Herrera. This was delightful and I read it 2 times. And this is about kind of what it sounds like. This is about a rum maker who she's living in the Caribbean and her father has passed away, but her inheritance is set up in trust and her trustee or trust holder is not allowing her to access her funds. And so she goes to Paris to showcase her rum and try to get a European market for her business, but also to confront her trust fund holder. And one of the stipulations of the trust is she gets it upon marriage. And then the hero of the story is a Scottish man who is the son of a really terrible lord and he just wants to run his little distillery, make his business grow as well. So he's also in Paris showcasing his alcohol, and this is where the two of them meet. And one of the stipulations in his mother's will is that he has to get married and then the distillery becomes his in his own right as a wedding gift. So you can see that this is a marriage of convenience. I freaking love marriage of convenience, and fake dating are some of my favorite romance setups, and this is a marriage of convenience, and I think it's done really well because both parties stand to gain pretty equally from joining in the marriage. Sometimes, not all the time, there's one party that is going to get more out of the arrangement than the other, but this one, it is truly equal in my opinion. The first 50% of this book is these two being witty and funny and charming and a little flirty with each other, and I just loved the first half of this book before they get together even, as they're making arrangements. And one of my favorite parts of this book is how our main, our heroine is really horny for him. They're both really horny for each other, and she straight up says, when we get married, I want to be in your bed. Like, you're gonna be in my bed. We're gonna do that part of the marriage because we are obviously really hot for each other. And I was like, good for you. So I enjoyed the plot. I enjoyed the characters. There's a bunch of side characters. There's side queer characters. Pretty much everyone is a person of color, except for the hero. I think this was executed super well, and overall I just really loved this one, and I highly recommend this of all the romances I read this month, and I gave this a 4.5 out of 5 stars in the end. Okay, now we're into the sci-fi category. And we have to talk about my favorite author. I don't want to talk about it. The Daughter of Dr. Moreau by Silvia Moreno Garcia. This is Silvia Moreno Garcia's latest release. Carlotta, who is the daughter of Dr. Moreau, who is kind of a mad scientist. And we are also getting the perspective of Montgomery, who runs kind of the day-to-day operations of the compound where she lives. Carlotta is quite a few years younger than Montgomery. Montgomery is in his mid-30s when Carlotta is 20, and he knows her since she was 14. So right off the bat, I was getting some weird vibes from that situation because I was like, is this gonna turn into a romance between the two of them? Why are we following these two characters in particular? What's the dynamic here? So I kind of got the ick from that. Luckily, it doesn't really turn into a romance, but Montgomery does express feelings for her that she does not reciprocate. Even though it doesn't end up being a romance, that sentiment kind of gave me the ick. Unfortunately, my overall impression of this was I just didn't feel anything for anyone, and I don't know what to say. Most of the time, the reason I love Silvia Moreno Garcia so much is her characters, and I just really couldn't connect to either Carlotta or Montgomery in this book. I don't know if it was me and just like I was dissociating or something, but I just could not connect with these characters, and so I just didn't enjoy this one. I'm really sorry. I feel so bad. This is one of my anticipated releases of the year. Silvia Moreno Garcia is still my favorite, one of my favorite authors. Look at this. I still love her to death. This just wasn't a hit for me. Moving on, we have books 2 and 3 in the Protectorate trilogy, which is the Chaos Vector and the Catalyst Gate by Megan E. O'Keefe. I gave book 2 4.5 stars and book 3 4 stars. This is a really fun, really action-packed sci-fi trilogy, and I really enjoyed the ride from book 1 to book 3. The first book is about these two siblings who are separated by time. Our main heroine is off in a battle and she gets hit by something and wakes up in a mysterious ship, and 200 years or so have passed, and she's trying to get back to civilization to try and survive and also to see if she can reverse this time travel thing. And then this also follows her brother, who is dealing with the political fallout of the war that's going on between these two planets and kind of what happened to his sister. I loved the sibling dynamics in here. I loved the found family elements in here. I just really enjoyed this series overall. The one thing about the final installment, Catalyst Gate, is that the emotional payoff at the end is kind of rushed through fairly quickly. Like the final scene is a little bit of a and that's it kind of moment, whereas I would have wanted the main characters to emote a little bit more about the conclusion of how everything panned out in the end. But overall, I still think it ended the way it needed to end, and it was a satisfying conclusion overall. This is a really fun trilogy, and if you're a big, if you're a sci-fi fan, I think you should give this a try. I think this is an excellent, excellent trilogy. Final category is fantasy, and we're going to start with Nettle and Bone by T. Kingfisher. Everyone and their uncle and their mama and their children are reading T. Kingfisher right now, and I was like, who is this author? I really want to get in on this and see what she is all about. And I really enjoyed Nettle and Bone. This is about our main character, Mara, who is the third princess in a small kingdom, and her two older sisters are married off to the prince of a larger kingdom to kind of protect them, and the king, or the prince of that nation, kills the first sister and physically abuses the second. So Mara is on a mission to save her sister from her horrible husband and get her out of that situation. So in order to do this, she goes to a bone witch and asks the witch for help, and in order to get the witch's help, she needs to complete 3 impossible tasks. Now, the majority of this book is actually a quest, kind of a journey book, where she is traveling around picking up different materials, finding different crew members along the way, if you will, to join her party along the journey to the kingdom where her sister is to help her. And this is I would say a novella. It's a pretty short, pretty quick read. It reads like a dark fairy tale, but at the same time, it really balances like the whimsy of a fairy tale and like kind of lighthearted banter and silliness that the characters have with each other, with those darker themes of obviously partner abuse, physical, emotional, all of that, and you know, some of the dark twisted fairy tale vibes. Like there's a goblin market, there's all this bone magic, etc., etc. So I thought the balance of those two things was really great. I actually laughed out loud reading this book. I thought the characters were hilarious with each other. It's a little bit like a found family going on an adventure together. I love all the characters in this. I really had a good time with this, and I ended up giving it 4 stars. Now we have a toss-up between my 2 most favorite reads of the month. I can't decide. So I guess first we'll just talk about the one I have on hand. That is The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. I finally finished this. I've been reading this slowly over the course of about 2.5 months, 3 months, all summer essentially. And I've been taking my time with this and really enjoying my time reading this. This is very lyrically written, very beautiful writing, and it's also kind of this melancholy story, which I think is best taken slow. This is about these 2 magicians who are forced to compete against each other at the whims of their teachers to see who can win. And that is kind of the plot of this book, but it is told in a non-linear timeline. We're following a lot of different members of this circus, and you know, it's kind of all over the place, but it all comes together, I think, really beautifully in the end, and it all starts to make sense. I mean, my personal taste, I don't normally enjoy books written in this style of like non-linear. Things are kind of confusing, like jumping all over the place, but I think I've grown to appreciate it when it's done well, and I think this is done really, really well. There is an element of like forbidden romance between the rival magicians, and this is just straight vibes. If you like The Prestige, the movie, I think this would be a great read for you. I was surprised at how dark this got, and just a lot of the themes were great, and I gave this 5 stars. I just really, really enjoyed my time reading this one, and it deserves the hype, in my opinion. I thought it was great if you're looking for like a melancholy vibe book with lots of magic and mysticism and mystery and a non-linear plot. Well, and my last book I have to talk about, which was also a 5 stars, is The Wall of Storms by Ken Liu, which is book 2 in the Dandelion Dynasty. This is following essentially the children of book 1. However, our, you know, heroes and heroines from book 1 do make appearances and are pretty heavy players in book 2 as well. So this is a silk punk Chinese influenced epic fantasy story, multi-POV, and book 2 was better than book 1 in my opinion. I know that's controversial in general to say, but I think this book was spectacular. They're dealing with foreign invaders who are taking a good chunk out of them and dealing with lots of politics, lots of drama, both internally and externally. And I just really loved where this one went. Ken Liu is not afraid to, he does not pull his punches. And I will say that. I don't want to spoil too many things, but I am really enjoying my read of this quartet. I don't have book 3 on deck, sadly, but I will try to get it as soon as possible so I can continue and finish this quartet, because I think this is truly, truly masterful craft and execution. Great characters, great fantasy, and I highly, highly recommend this quartet. I think a lot of people would really enjoy this series. Those are all of the books I was able to complete in August. Thank you so much for watching. If you made it to the end of this video, I appreciate you all so, so much, and I will see you in another video very soon. Bye!